Well, hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. You're here with me, Chris Aguilar, as well as Amaris Woo. Amaris is a local photographer in San Jose, California. A few moments ago, we were actually trying to record this and had a few mic issues, and it turns out, my Mac couldn't handle the screen record. So this will be an audio podcast. So I want to give a shout out to Amaris for helping me troubleshoot for the past 40 minutes on why it's not working. Well, very cool. Amaris, I know I asked you a couple questions multiple times as we're trying to figure all that out, so I'm going to change up the flow. Cool. Well, hey, Amaris, let me ask you this. I know for a lot of the folks listening, you've mentioned that you do event photography and travel photography and portrait photography. Is there a medium out of those three, and if there's one that wasn't listed, that you say you gravitate towards more?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty hard to answer since they're all special in their own ways. I guess I like them for different reasons. Usually for portraits, it's, meeting new people and just, it's very lifestyle-y shots, I guess. And there could be concepts too. Just, meeting new people, creating concepts. But with concerts, it's feeling the energy of the crowd and also the performer. And usually if you're shooting an artist that you really like, it's just this really wonderful feeling. So it's kind of hard to say which I like most, I think. Out of all the different photography types, these three are my favorites, but I can't really isolate one particular favorite one right now.
That's a fair answer. Okay, so what is it? Because it seems like all three of those have some kind of theme in common, but what is it about those three that you have that, for example, why isn't product photography maybe, right, or animal photography on that list? What is it about the ones you are into that pull you?
I think, a brief comment on product photography and animal photography. I haven't really tried those, so maybe I see a whole different world in those two. But in concerts, a lot of the concerts I shoot are artists I really like. So it's wow, I listen to these songs every day, and I'm actually seeing the artist in front of me, which is really cool. And then just seeing all the lights and colors, all the visuals, and then seeing how much the audience just love these artists. It's just really amazing to be in that atmosphere. And I think for travel photography, or specifically street photography, I really like telling stories, and I feel like maybe a lot of these scenes would not be seen otherwise if I don't take these photos. And then for portraits, it's just hanging out with people, creating these concepts, and I guess it's just the collaborative effort is very different from other mediums. And maybe for products, they're just staying still, and there's definitely a lot of skill behind it. You understand lighting. That's a huge aspect. But I guess I prefer just maybe working with natural light and some more dynamic movements.
Okay, so you're less of a studio photographer. You're more someone that likes to actually be out and kind of just figure out what life kind of gives you and work with that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But also, I'm not good at setting up lights, so
Same.
that's also.
Yeah, no, same. I know a lot of people that are legit, and they're saying learn strobe lights, this and that, and I have to buy one first.
Lighting.
Yeah. yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, another aspect yours is if anyone that looks at your Instagram, really you have this running theme of Taiwan as a part of your content. Why is that? What is it about Taiwan that you show off more than anything else?
It's definitely a combination of things. My parents were born in Taiwan, and I feel actually growing up I didn't really hear much about Taiwan, but then as I entered college, I feel maybe I connected more with that Taiwanese identity. I visited a couple times and thought, wow, this is really beautiful. And I don't typically see a lot of Taiwan photos on travel blogs or travel Instagrams. I feel it's kind of this underrated destination place, and there's great food, great nature, great cities. There's so many good things to see there, so I really want to show a side that people don't get to see.
Gotcha. What is that side, right? I guess when people think of Taiwan, what do you think is the go-to image, and then what is something you feel people are missing when that's actually there?
I think people probably think of the food, and it does have really great food, but it's kind of funny because I'm a picky eater, so when I've been there, I've eaten ramen and pasta.
Yeah.
I have eaten Chinese food too. But I remember being on this Facebook travel group, and then someone, I recommended Taiwan to someone, and they're is there anything to see there besides food? And I'm there's so many things.
Yeah.
The cityscape is beautiful. I think, one big difference of Taipei and maybe the Bay Area is a lot more dense over there. Things are really tightly packed, and there's just this hustle and bustle that I feel like maybe we don't see here. So it just feels very different.
Gotcha. Would you say so? Do you like photographing more in Taiwan than the Bay Area?
I tend to, but I think part of it is also I'm very used to the scene over here. There's always more places to explore, but when I go there, it feels very new, even though I visited, several times. But there's always new people to work with, and just, it's different than the everyday scene here.
Yeah, okay. And do you think it just, because you grew up here, you said, right, in the Bay Area? Okay. So you think you just have, like, that, like, you that travel light isn't really there, so it's more like you're not bored of everything, but the story isn't as exciting, I guess.
Yeah, maybe a little. That's definitely a big part of it. Like I remember one of my aunts, she was visiting here from the Philippines, and then she was just surprised at how wide the roads were. Like even right in front of my house, she was taking photos. I'm like,
oh really?
I've never thought of that before.
Yeah,
it's over there, and in Taiwan, it's a lot more dense. Or some of our highways have maybe 5 different, pathways. There's a better word for that. Lanes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Different lanes. But in Taiwan, there's some bigger ones too, but it's mostly smaller. Just the whole scene looks different.
Yeah. Okay. And so, I guess is there anything? Because you've been there. I think you were mentioning earlier. You've been there 7 times, 8 times.
Yeah, about 7 times.
Okay. When you go there, shoot, and you work with other photographers there, is there anything you've brought back? Wise, or when you come to the Bay Area, I want to start photographing this more because of what I saw in Taiwan?
The only thing I can think of is street photography. I think I really started getting into that after meeting some photographers over there. But besides that, I don't think so.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, man, I wanted to. So I know we're doing audio podcast now, right? And if anything, people can always just go to your page and we could explain what it is. But I wanted to use the opportunity to go through a couple of your shots. And if anything, for the audio listeners, right? Because audio podcast, would you want to do me a quick favor as we go through and just describe what we're seeing visually? And then I know people could go to your Instagram and see more.
Yeah, for sure.
That work for you? Okay. For audio people, I appreciate you all listening, and you can definitely go to Amaris's Instagram to see the shots we're about to talk about. On that note, Amaris, how can people find your Instagram? What's your handle again?
It's at Amaris Woo. That's AMARISWOO.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see what I have up here?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the first image I have. It's titled Screenshot 2020, so it probably won't be as helpful. But Amaris, could you go ahead and describe what we're looking at?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite locations I've shot at. But this is a UZ hostel in Taipei. It's kind of like a capsule hotel, and it's kind of like spaceship-y, like you're in a capsule, and there's a model there. That's my friend Casey, she's a singer, and she's wearing kind of this cyberpunk-ish dress, and you can see her face reflected in a mirror there.
So how did this shot even come about? Was it planned, or you're just walking around here's this thing, let's walk over to it?
Yeah, this was definitely planned. I think for a lot of locations, I might scout them a little bit, but this is one of the first times where I've actually reached out to the owner of the hostel, because I saw some images online, and I was like, wow, I'd really love to do a shoot here. I always thought capsule hotels were interesting, so actually the model and I were actually, if we were allowed to shoot, we'd actually be interested in staying a night there, paying for it. Although, there weren't any available, but the manager there allowed us to come in and shoot there, which is really cool. So this was kind of this area on the side where it's an example of what the rooms look like. So we were shooting there. And yeah, it's definitely a small space. From the image, it might look kind of big, but I was using a 14 to 24 millimeter lens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, definitely a lot smaller without that.
Very cool. And is this in Taiwan, or is this right here? Okay, very cool. Let's go to the next one. What about this one right here?
That's my friend Dion. This is a neon sign in front of a restaurant or maybe a bar in Ximending, Taipei. It has a lot of words like build faith, be happy, love always. And I don't know, it just kind of, I feel like the neon sign vibe, it's sort of trendy, but it just looks really cool. I know in Hong Kong, it's it's part of their tradition, and it's sad that they're actually getting rid of a lot of them. But in this one in particular, I remember adding like a glitch effect in Photoshop because his hand is placed next to Be Happy, but it's kind of this more darker dystopian vibe, so I kind of wanted to create some kind of contrast.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, now, I don't know if you mentioned when we were talking about like the whole Blade Runner-esque-ness to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the movies have definitely inspired a lot of my work, like definitely Blade Runner.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. What about this one right here?
Ooh, a street photography shot. This was in Hsinchu, Taipei, or Taiwan, sorry. Hsinchu is the city. So it's at this outdoor market. There's two women in a frame. One of them's drinking some tea. And then in the foreground, you can also see like this chicken leg sticking up.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just like an ordinary, daily life, but it's very different from what you might see in the States. Everything from the lights hanging down there to that chicken leg that's just very like raw and in your face.
Yeah.
So it's just this different side that people don't get to see. So I thought it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, because even like the rawness, like even though the lights are exposed, right? There's nothing really on them, so it's just like in your face, right? Okay. So when you took the shot, obviously the person looking at you was that planned, or did they catch you and they're like, "What the heck? Like what happened after the shot was taken?"
Yeah, that one wasn't planned, and then we didn't talk about it. I think street photography is actually, that can be like a really huge discussion, but there's a lot of ethics in street photography. I think for me, I kind of avoided street for a while because, I wasn't really sure how I feel about it. And then now I kind of have this mindset of, like I know my intentions and I'm not going to profit off these images. And I think, without these photos, just people would never be able to see these scenes otherwise. So that's why I document them. But if someone asked me to delete it, like, I would if they're not comfortable being there.
That's cool. You're very respectful in that regard. Cool.
Concert photography.
Yeah.
This is Slander and Nightmare. Slander is Booty Days, Nightmare is 1. And this is at Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View. So, and the colors are very, kind of like, it reminds me of Tron Legacy, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it, but, they're at their DJ booth, but there's this interesting structure that has these, like, bluish teal Tron vibes around it. I don't know, I just, I like their music, and being there was really cool, and I try to keep a little bit of the audience in there, in the shot to make them present too, but the main focus is on the artists and kind of that futuristic Tron look.
Mm-hmm. Were you like hired, or like did you have like a media pass, or is this like you were actually just there, like you bought your own ticket and you're just kind of in the crowd there when, like how did...
Oh, I had a media pass for this one. I used to work for my school newspaper in college, and then even after I graduated, I've contributed some articles, so that's how I could get into some concerts.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So what's that process? Is it easy to get a media pass, or is it? I don't know. I never got one for, so I'm trying to figure out like what if it's really just you send an email out and you get one, or is it hard?
I would say it's not easy, but it kind of depends. Like sometimes you might get lucky. It's kind of like a job interview where you might send out a lot, but you only hear back from a few, so you have to follow up. Or just give up eventually. But I think a lot of times they actually don't really hire freelance photographers for this because the artists already have their own photographers. And, a media pass is usually if you're like with a newspaper or something, or, a news organization. Mm-hmm. So, I would say, oh, I'm part of so-and-so organization. I was wondering if there's any media passes available. And that's how you get in. But yeah, it's pretty hard. Like I hear back. Like for most times I don't hear back, I'd say.
Oh shit. Yeah. Well, you definitely gotta hustle, huh?
It's worth it, I'd say. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then I think the last one I have for this set.
Ooh. All right. This is a really interesting spot in Taipei. It's known as Scooter Waterfall because when these people are going to work, they have to come down for this bridge, and there's just a bunch of people on scooters. So it kind of like resembles a waterfall. So this is another scene where you won't typically, you never see this in America. But, the street's kind of narrow and there's just like hundreds of scooters coming down each time. And I don't know, I think it's just a really interesting scene for me. And you also have to get up pretty early for this. Like about maybe, you have to get here, but you can shoot here around 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. As people are getting to work.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So when you were like taking this shot, like there's a lot of people. Did anyone at all give you like looks or stop you, or is it just more like
Not for this. I think this is a pretty popular spot. Like, it's been featured in National Geographic and stuff. So yeah, in this shot, like, I don't think anyone's looking at me, but there was another shot I took of this location where someone's actually giving me the peace sign, because a lot of people are used to photographers coming here. Like, I've been to this spot about, I want to say 2 or 3 times, and there's at least a couple other photographers there already.
Oh, so it's just like a thing. Like,
This spot.
They're probably used to it at this point.
I think so.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, hey, I appreciate running through those. Let me go ahead and go back to our screen so we can continue talking.
For sure.
Okay, I should be back. Can you see me or hear me? Both work. Cool. Well, hey, Amaris. Cool. I guess one thing I'm always like curious about. What kind of gear do you use, right? Or do you kind of just? Yeah, I guess that's the question. What's your setup like?
Right now I'm using a Sony a7 III, and then my lenses are a 24 to 240. So pretty versatile range. And then I'm using an 85 1.8, and I'm using a 14 to 24.
Gotcha. Okay, so you have a wide range. So when you go out, do you have a go-to lens, or you're more like, I'm just gonna throw together like a rando kind of setup and just figure out like what I get when I go outside?
Definitely depends what I'm shooting. Like, for concerts, I like that 14 to 24 because, I can see like more of the audience in the stage. Like, I remember I was shooting an Millennium concert in December, and I could only be in the photo pit in the front. So I'm not allowed to go in the audience at all. So I really had to utilize that 14 for pretty much every shot. And then for portraits, I'll probably use the 85 almost all the time. But, for a lot of travel photos, I do like using 24 to 240 since, the scene always changes, or you'll notice something that might pass in a second, so you just have to have that zoom lens. You don't have time to change lenses.
Cool. We said you do Sony, right? How did you end up with the Sony versus like a Nikon or a Canon? Like, is there a preference, or just it was the first camera you bought and like, this is the family I'm in now?
It's funny because I think, besides the first point and shoot that I ever tried, my first camera was a Sony. It's also mirrorless. It was a gift to my dad, and he didn't use it, so I just kind of took it. But I feel like maybe it feels like I started with Sony in a way. And I did have a Nikon, like, it was like entry-level DSLR after that, just to kind of learn the functions. But I decided to go back to Sony, and then, I feel like the Sony Alpha line is pretty good, and I did want something full frame. That was pretty good quality. So that's why I stuck with this one.
Do you ever see yourself, like, going somewhere else where you're going to be a Sony kind of person for life?
I feel like I invested a good amount with, the camera body and the lenses, but, if there's, like, a revolutionary camera in the future, I'm not opposed to switching. But for now, I think I'll stick with Sony.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, on that same note, like, I know we talked about, like, a bit of process, we're going to gear now, but in terms of, like, inspirations, are there any photographers you look up to that you're like, oh, every time I see this person shoots, I just fucking love it? Or do you more just, like, not have anything you look into?
I definitely get inspired by stuff like movies, and just like scenes around me. But yeah, there are people too. Like there's a photographer, Liam Wong. He's a really cool guy. Like he kind of popularized the like cyberpunk imagery, kind of inspired by Bladerunner. And let's see. And then there's also Amaris, or I think that's how I pronounce it. But she's a photographer that has these really cinematic storytelling shots on Instagram too. I think I'm also inspired by a lot of friends around me. I have a friend named Eric that takes kind of like lifestyle portrait shots, but he really likes these pastel, softer colors, and I think I don't really see that a lot in the portrait scene. Or one of my friends, Vishal, he's from India and he's in Chicago now, but he has these kind of travel or like city street type shots, and I think there's a lot of moments that people don't see, and the editing is also a little desaturated, but he just pays good attention to light. I feel like, it's maybe I don't see it as much on Instagram, and I really like it, so it kind of inspires me too.
So, have you made your own movie yet? I feel like every time, like, it keeps coming back to Bladerunner every other 5 minutes, where cinematic.
I made a couple short films in college. Not really. One of them was named Whiskey, and I was kind of proud of that. The rest, maybe not so much. I did have this goal of making like a feature-length movie in Taiwan, so I wrote the screenplay. Then I realized that's a lot of effort. It definitely one day I think it'd be cool, but feature length movie might be 120 minutes, and I have to get the cast together and a lot of things together. So I think I won't be making one anytime soon, but when I go to Taiwan, like when I've done some solo travel trips, I have done like these short cinematic videos, or maybe like 5 minutes for YouTube.
Are those like live for people to look at, or?
Oh yeah, they're on YouTube.
Oh what? Well, I have stuff I can do now after our interview. No, speaking of which, well, hey, I know we're running near time. Can I ask you one last question before we run off?
Oh, for sure.
Cool. Okay, so where you are in photography now, and I've been shooting for like 8 years at this point. I guess what's next in your journey? What is it like you're working on that you're trying to push yourself to do or get better at, kind of just as a professional or as an artist?
I think, I'm always still developing my style. Like I've had this more cinematic or lifestyle vibe, but maybe I guess I kind of want to solidify exactly what I want to do, and just get better at what I'm doing. Like maybe understanding, like, I know how my gear works, but maybe like maximizing its potential, or maybe even trying something new. I feel like there's a lot of places I could go, but maybe my main priority right now is just, I guess, shooting with other photographers and kind of networking, because photography is not full time for me right now. So I think, it's kind of more of a hobby, but I do want to just improve my skills and get to know more people, and I guess just keep shooting.
Very cool, very cool. Well, hey, Amaris, I appreciate you joining me today. So very cool for everyone that was listening. You can follow Amaris on Instagram at Amaris Woo. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel reach out and leave a comment, and we can talk more. All right, thanks, Amaris. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye.